Hello everyone and welcome back to Doctor Who's Crown Jewels, the series where I go through every season of Doctor Who and pick out the best from each of them. Season 5 is a tough one because it's really damn good. It's the best season we've covered so far. I know I said that last time, but Season 5 is better than Season 4. I would say the lower bound of story quality is about the same, but so is the upper bound, but most of the stories are good to great to amazing. Like, the worst of it is the Wheel in Space, and it's alright. I enjoy it. I've come around on the Ice Warriors finally on this rewatch, because previously I thought it's just a bit mid. Mid to okay, but still mid. Now I just think it's good. Not amazing, but it's good. And then you've got The Great Abominable Snowmen, The Fantastic Fury from the Deep, and the 3 Crown Jewel candidates this video is gonna cover. Yes, that's right. I said it. 3. I've given myself a limitation of I have to only talk about 3 stories maximum for any given series, really. That's because when we get to seasons with 4 stories in them, doing more than 3 is the whole season. So, yeah, just in case I'm tempted to do that, I have to stick with 3. Good job I am this time round, because, geez, it's very hard to pry apart these 3 stories to determine which one's the best of the best, because I would say they're just about as good as each other. They're all contenders for the best story of all time. They don't quite make my top 5, but they definitely make my top 15. And when my top 25 is so good, you know it says a lot when these stories are automatically in my top 15, possibly even my top 10. But enough rambling. The first of these stories is The Tomb of the Cybermen. Does this one need any introduction? We all know it. A story where a group of archaeologists team up to try and find the last remains of the Cybermen Empire, only for people who were planning to control the Cybermen to wake them up and cause havoc. I say this lightheartedly, but it is really a tense atmosphere. And I feel like, despite some problematic elements this story may have had due to being in the 60s, it makes up for it with just pure good storytelling and characterization. I will admit, some of the characters are a bit misogynistic, but Victoria vocally defends herself. The human villains all have European accents, but one of them was played by, I believe, a European actor, or at least one of them, I should say. And they were also just really good characters. Them being European had nothing to do with how good a character they were. And sure, the sole black character is the noble savage stereotype. They at least gave him interesting stuff to do in regards to how the Cybermen were partially converting him. And the Cybermen. I don't feel like I need to explain much about the story because you've probably already seen it. It's probably the story that's most likely to be someone's first Troughton era story, possibly someone's first 60s story. It certainly was mine. And there's a good reason for that, because it's good. Sure, it was missing for about 2 decades, but when it got recovered, it got, well, released as soon as possible on any format they managed to get their hands on. So you probably already know how this is one of the best, if not the best, portrayal of the Cybermen in the entire show. Their tomb is built to be a set of logic puzzles that only the smartest individuals could possibly get. But it was also designed as a trap so that the smartest individuals who also had the biggest lust for power would be ensnared in so that the cyber race could return. The reason the tomb exists in the first place is to ensure Cybermen's survival, so that they could be cryogenically suspended for the amount of time that they needed to until they could find people so that they could start rebuilding their empire. Honestly, I've pretty much explained everything about the story other than every side character is wonderful and amazing, especially, like, Klieg and Kaftan are so amazing. I cannot stress it enough. I feel like The Enemy of the World, which is the second one I'm going to be talking about, it has much more of a recent reappraisal, for sure, but I don't know how much people really enjoy this. Or I should say what deeper level they enjoy this. Because obviously, pretty much everyone who's seen Enemy of the World, from what I can gather, loves The Enemy of the World. That's just a given. A lot of people go on about how it's basically visually spectacular due to it feeling like a Bond movie, but I never felt like the visuals really encapsulated that. I feel like the performances really did need to be visual, hence why The Recovery gave it its reappraisal, but I feel like the tone of the writing is more like a Bond film. But there's also a lot of suspense, with the Doctor not sure who to believe, whilst all the characters seem suspicious. Salamander, the villain, who is also played by Patrick Troughton, probably the best character in the entire story, because he was able to cover his tracks well. But pretty much every character in the story is one that I love. You know, I love Astrid, I love Danish, I love Kent, I love Bennick, I love Faria, I even love Griffin the chef. They're all amazing characters. They're all part of this brilliant ensemble, and seeing how they interact with one another, how they process the information, and how the Doctor and Salamander looking just alike throws a spanner into everyone's works is just amazing. In the second half of the story, there's a twist that reveals how Salamander is able to know when natural disasters occur. It's because he's essentially assembled a cult of people who he's lied to about there being a nuclear war, and they're powering these natural disasters. It being 6 parts doesn't matter, because every second is not wasted. There's scheme after scheme, plot after plot, and honestly, it's so tense. It's hard to even believe how anyone could win other than Salamander. Honestly, Enemy of the World is possibly the best 6-parter. Possibly. Yeah, that's right, the Web of Fear is also a crown jewel. There's 3 of them. The Web of Fear is that good. It's a direct sequel to The Abominable Snowmen, with the main villain, the Great Intelligence, having revenge on the Doctor, or something akin to revenge, with even the return of Professor Travers, now accompanied by his daughter Anne. The Yeti have taken over London, and especially the London Underground, which, can I just say, the London Underground is a perfect setting for the Web of Fear to take place in, especially when it's lit that way. It really feels like a labyrinth of terror, really, especially when this weird fungus web thing keeps controlling where they can and can't go, and failing that, the Yeti are unleashed upon them. People may know this one as the one that introduced Lethbridge Stewart as a character, and although he's great, he's one of many great characters. He's probably easily the best of the military side characters, so I'm glad out of all of them, he was the one to return. But you've also got Captain Knight, you've also got Staff, you've also got the Welsh one. I can't remember his name. I have a terrible memory. I feel like the reason why these 3 stories are the best is mostly, not entirely, down to the side characters being so good, but it's also because the plots are so just well made and so classic and so memorable. The thing is about the Web of Fear, a lot of the time you don't know what's going on, but that's intentional. It's meant to be disorientating in that regard. Not technically disorientating. There is nothing about how they're filming it that makes it seem disorientating. It's all about the writing and how there's a lot of misdirection, between the characters. Whether we know it to be not true, or whether we just don't know at all. The way the TARDIS team is utilised in all this also works a lot. And the fact that the TARDIS team and Travers all know each other already going in makes things a lot more simple. It's very tedious when the Doctor, Jamie, and Victoria just, get into suspicion whenever something bad is happening at the start of the plot. It would just be annoying and waste time. Valuable time. Instead, they are suspicious, but really, what other choice is there? Yes, people have their suspicions pretty immediately, but Travers being there also makes things ease a bit more. When characters are scared in the story, you really feel it to be true, and just the level of suspense in this one is greater than the other 2, I would say, and that is, I would say, other than the biggest strength that all 3 of these stories share, or the biggest strengths all 3 of these stories share, the Web of Fear, with its suspense, is honestly, that is the strongest thing other than the plot and characters. But yeah, I really don't have much to say. All 3 of these stories, I'm just describing elements of the stories, but the elements themselves and the way the story is told is just so amazing. They're paced wonderfully, and honestly, there is nothing more for me to do other than tell you to go watch them. All 3 of them. Try and go for the non-animated version of the Web of Fear Part 3, because the animated version looks terrible. to be completely honest. But the rest of the episodes of The Web of Fear and the entirety of Enemy of the World and Tomb of the Cybermen all survive. One last thing to note, I did try analysing the Enemy of the World a lot more deeply a few years ago, however the video got deleted. If it ever resurfaces, hopefully it will be linked in the description. But at the end of the day, these 3 stories not only define why Season 5 is likely the best 60 season and one of the best in the show's entire history, but they are also the crown jewels of Season 5. Next week, I'm going to be discussing the end of the 60s. That's enough from me. Until next time, cheerio.